Welcome to Nugg Talk.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Nugg Talk, a weekly podcast where we talk about everything going on in the NBA and everything going on with your Denver Nuggets. I'm your host, Loki, here with Phil. Phil, what's up?
What's up?
How you doing, man?
Oh, pretty good. Have a lot of thoughts on the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get into it.
That series was depressing. Maybe
It
sad
was
again.
frustrating for me.
We will get into it. Before we get started, though, I do want to mention we are now available to listen on Spotify and other streaming platforms, except for Apple or iTunes or whatever crap it is now. I'm working on that. We're getting there. But we're on Spotify, so if you guys want to listen to us on Spotify, you can do that if you prefer to do that instead of YouTube. But we will get started with some Nuggets news today, since we haven't recorded in a couple weeks. Some news came out about MPJ, where Nuggets inside writer, his name is Adam Mares. Oh
yeah, I know who that is.
He came out a couple weeks ago and he said about MPJ and his future in Denver that he's a very low IQ player. He really has a lot to learn about the game, but his natural ability is so high in my mind that you live with those mistakes and you allow him to play through them, which we saw, throughout the season. MPJ made a lot of mistakes on the defensive side of the ball.
Yep.
So much to the point where even I was pissed off with him, and I was okay if he didn't play for the rest of the season because he just looks lost.
He looked really bad on defense, and he even wasn't really that good on offense in the last month of the season.
And again, that comes to your point where you said he always just kind of stands in the corner and doesn't do anything. So that's a very good point, and he's right about what he said there. And then Malone kind of had a response to this, and it's if you look at Michael Porter Jr.'s January, that's the best example of what he can truly be, because that was the month that he popped off and he looked great. He had that good game against the Pacers. He had a good stretch where he was scoring at least 15 points for a couple games.
He looked really solid. At that point, I was pretty convinced that he wasn't going to leave the rotation.
Yeah.
Then
at that point, you wanted him to start.
Yeah, I did. And then he got hurt, which was unfortunate.
And then he got hurt again, and apparently it was a lot worse, worse of an injury than he led it on to believe. He shouldn't have tried to play through it, and I think he did for at least a game, and then we shut him down like we should have. But now he's fully healthy, because even when he came back, he said he wasn't fully healthy. He was just playing through it, and he should never do that.
Yeah, he doesn't have a good enough history to do that.
Yeah. But Malone continued and said, he's shown us all what he can do. Now the challenge is for him to do it more on a consistent basis. We've seen the talent he has, and we're excited to see what happens from it. So I think Malone understands it as well, and everyone gets that he's a very talented player. His IQ is very low right now. He's not there yet.
He's got a really long way to go, and that's kind of exciting because he's 21?
He's
20?
21, 20. I'll look it up.
Point is, he's super young, so now it's just a question of what is his mentality.
He's 21.
21. Is he going to go out there and both on the court and during the off season put his head down and really just grind, learn, get that IQ up? Right now, I would love it if he was just watching a bunch of tape.
Yeah, he should be watching film, because that was, and this is to bring other Denver sports into it, Drew Lock, when he was injured, apparently all he did was watch tape, and then he came in and he did really well.
He also sent the playbook to one of our draft picks the night he was drafted. It was pretty cool.
Exactly. So he takes into that account of preparation, and that's, I think, what MPJ needs to learn, is that account of preparations, learning plays. He didn't know our playbook apparently still. Even when he was playing, he didn't fully understand it. And you could see that a couple times. He would look at Jamal or Jokic or Monte, whoever was running point, and he would just do this, his hands up in there, what is it? He didn't know what the plays were. Still can learn it, though. He has time to do that.
That is what's so exciting, is that, everybody sees the talent. So if he can put it all together, he is just as talented as KD.
Yeah.
He just has to turn it into something.
That's a ceiling for sure. So he can get there. He just has to put in the extra work, which I'm hoping at this time he is, because there's nothing else to do. So you better be watching film and not playing 2K and 2K tournaments and losing. Stop.
Losing badly.
Yeah, don't do that, okay? I think MPJ will definitely have a better next year, whenever that is. We get back to real life. But for the time being, you could see a lot of the inefficiencies. But the potential is there, and we just have to hope he capitalizes on that. Same issue as with Jamal. It's all consistency. If those two can become consistent, this team becomes really scary. But we just have to wait and see until that happens.
Yeah. If those two, I mean, I don't even think, even if they become like fringe all-star players, granted, probably won't win us a championship, but it's going to make us pretty hard to beat.
It makes us a lot better because we only have one all-star.
Yeah, we only have one player who's even close to being an all-star right now. I guess the next closest is Jamal, but his inconsistency really hurts him.
Yeah, because he has the same issue too. But I'm hoping that they're all learning things during this, crisis. I know some of them have courts. Like Paul Millsap has a court in his house, so he's still like practicing. Jokic, Mike Malone sent them all workout bikes so they can work out during this time. Mainly it was for Jokic.
Oh yeah.
They're all worried about Jokic getting fat, but if you look at the pictures that his girlfriend posts on Instagram, he's skinny. He looks fine. So he looks like he's losing weight in this crisis, which is great. But I'm hoping the team gets back to it. Again, we don't know if basketball's ever coming back. It's looking like they're trying to make it come back no matter what, but there's new reports every day, so I don't really care.
Always is changing.
But yeah, I hope the team, they do well moving forward. But now we'll talk about the other thing we were going to talk about today on today's episode. In the 2 weeks since our last episode, 4 episodes of the Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary has been aired. 2 more happening tonight that we will watch eventually. The 2 that aired, one was just about like Michael, his upbringing, like him playing college. The second episode was about Scottie Pippen, his upbringing, him not getting paid a lot of money, which no one knew.
Absolutely nuts.
The third one's about Dennis Rodman. Again, his upbringing, him going crazy, him partying in Vegas.
Also absolutely nuts.
And then the fourth one was about his first championship run and kind of the bad boy Pistons. And that was also in the mixture of the third one. But it was mainly talking about how he basically went from just being the player who just won scoring titles to actually winning titles.
Yeah, the fourth one was about Phil Jackson.
Oh yeah, and Phil Jackson too. Yeah, and Phil Jackson's crazy fusion, like Native American ways.
Yeah, he's he's a very spiritual person. I actually did not know that.
I knew that a lot. He's a weird guy. He's very into Zen. A lot of Zen. But what were your thoughts about, we'll start off with Scottie Pippen taking a 7-year contract for $18 million when he was probably the second best player in the league. Because once Michael Jordan retired, he was one of the best players in the league. So he was probably the second best who just, sidekick role, so you don't really see it. But yeah. What do you think about that insane contract?
It blew my mind. Like, imagine if that happened in today's NBA.
Because LeBron's the closest thing you can do right now. Like Kyrie would never take a 7-year, $18 million contract. No. Dwayne Wade would have never took a 7-year, $18 million contract. So
someone on Scottie Pippen's level, no one would have.
Yeah, and those two are not even on Scottie Pippen's level, in my opinion. Scottie Pippen was better than those two.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Doesn't make any fucking sense why he did that. He said he wanted to support his family, which is good.
And you can understand that, but I guess he was just so good immediately once he got into the league.
Yeah, he started to learn a lot of things. I mean, he was already one of the best defenders. Jordan helped his offensive game a lot. He was already freakishly athletic, and he was another point forward along with Magic Johnson. Not as good as Magic Johnson, but he knew how to pass better than Michael Jordan did. He led the team usually in assists. But with that being said, another reason he said why is because he was scared that he might get injured and he wouldn't get a better deal than that. But
then sign a 4-year deal or
you
something.
Still would have got signed even for a good deal. A shitty team would have paid you even if you're
injured. They would have taken a risk on you after how you were playing.
Yeah, an example of nowadays that happening is Kevin Durant. Mm-hmm. Tore his Achilles. Still got a fucking huge ass contract.
Of the max, yeah.
Yeah. So they don't give a shit if you're injured. I don't know. I don't know if he didn't have an agent. I didn't really look into it. If he did have an agent, the agent sucks.
Yeah, he really sucks. I kind of get the vibe that he didn't.
I think he might have not, and if he did, it was probably a family member. Yeah. I have no clue, but I didn't do enough research into it. But that was the most crazy thing, just to realize that's why they had such good stacked teams. Is one of those reasons, is because you don't have to pay your second best player what he deserves. You can get a lot of talent around the team, and that helped them, get a lot of good pieces, such as like Horace Grant for the first couple ones, and then for the next ones, Dennis Rodman, and all the other players that they had on the bench, Kukoc and all those. But I don't think you really ever see Scotty play until like that for the most part. So
I mean, yeah, not really.
Any shocking surprises from just how good he was?
Kind of reminds me of LeBron. He was the first real point forward. I feel like he was really good. He was really good. I always knew he was like good. I always knew he was like one of the best players in the league. But like I never really like sought out Scottie Pippen highlights when Michael Jordan's standing right next to him. But yeah, I think he's impressed the hell out of me. He was a great player. Kind of sucks how things went down between him and the Bulls, but also Jerry Krause is kind of a dick.
Yeah, and that was the next thing he got into. Towards the last season, they started talking about how he sat out. He took surgery to sit out because he was upset about his contract. Jerry Krause already said, we're blowing this up. This is the last time with this team, mainly because his ego took over, and he was upset that they were the players were getting all the credit and he wasn't. Reminds me similarly to like David Griffin, because David Griffin left after they won the championship. And I think it's because everyone says, well, LeBron's the GM and same thing probably happened back then, but not to the extent of now because there's no social media. But people were like, Michael Jordan's winning these.
It's not you.
Jerry Krause.
And then it was probably even also then the whole Phil Jackson thing too. People gave Phil Jackson more credit than Jerry Krause too.
Yeah.
And then that led to a huge falling out between them.
And it's unfortunate because Jerry Krause is not able to obviously talk in this documentary because no longer here.
Yeah.
But I would like to hear his side of things. I think there's always two sides to the story. You still have to give him credit because he did make all the moves for Jordan.
Mm-hmm. He got Pippen.
Yeah, he got Pippen. He got Horace Grant. He got rid of Charles Oakley. He got all the people. Got Dennis Rodman. He did all these moves.
Oh, I meant Dennis Rodman. Sorry.
That's fine. He did all these moves to get as many people as he could for the team, and a lot of GMs nowadays, they don't get a lot of credit for doing that. The most recent GM who did get credit for doing something that was kind of outlandish was Masai getting Kawhi.
Yeah.
Most GMs are too scared to make those moves because they don't want to lose their jobs. He went out and got Michael Help. Most GMs don't really do that most of the time. Some do, like the Warriors GMs.
Let's talk about that. Like, what is with, like, I know that a lot of teams are they just want money. Like, that's what the Colorado Rockies are. They just want to make money. They don't care about being good. But if you, like, the Cavs had LeBron James, and he was looking like he could have been, and he ended up being still one of the best players of all time. Why didn't they just go crazy to try and get him more help?
Because, and this is credit that you have to give to LeBron James, because at that point there was the idea that you get drafted a team, you stay on that team forever.
Yeah.
You don't leave. And that's because Michael Jordan made that idea, but Larry Bird, Magic Johnson,
Kobe,
all stayed on that team. Yeah, Kobe to that point. The only person who left was Shaq, but to go to the Lakers, but that wasn't really the same type of thing. LeBron made it where it was like, when he went to Miami, they were like, oh shit, these guys are actually willing to leave for less money and go to a team where they can create a team that helps them out. And then that's when the whole kind of NBA changed, and I think for the better. Because now you don't have just people stuck on shitty teams anymore. Granted, it sucks for us smaller market teams, but I think it's getting better overall with bit more and more rule changes, stricter caps, things along those lines. But that's why, because at a time when you're a GM, you don't think your star player is going to leave because they just want money. But these guys make a ton of money off the field. Like Jordan makes brand deals.
If you're one of the best, you're going to get endorsements.
Yeah, so they don't care anymore. So that's the difference. Back then, Jordan started making brand deals. There wasn't a Jordan brand. There wasn't you getting shoe deals like this. You got shoe deals, but not like what he was getting. He was getting paid a shit ton of money. He even got his own division, like for Nike. So like it's different then than it is now. So that was why they don't do help. But again, like Jerry Krause did good for doing what he had to do to help Michael Jordan win, especially because they weren't a winning franchise. And then we'll move on to the next guy who they brought in, which was Dennis Rodman on the Bad Boys Pistons. Very aggressive team, very defensive-minded team. Won 2 championships. Should have won a third one. They got hosed by the refs in their third finals because Kareem got fouled on the last shot. He didn't get fouled. But Isaiah Thomas like broke his ankle in like one of those games. Well, he didn't break it. He severely sprained it, and he scored like 43 on it. So
Yeah, that team was impressive.
that team did really good to end the Celtics runs and the Lakers runs. They ended both of those runs. And then once their run kind of ended after Jordan beat them with Scotty and went on to win the first, then they went on to win 3. Dennis Rodman starts to have his like awakening where he figures out the person he really is. He has a little bit of issues with not showing up to practice and considering killing himself at that time. But then after that, he kind of figures out the person he is. He doesn't care about public opinion anymore. Gets traded to Spurs. Bulls call, get him, even though he's kind of he's a lot to deal with. And they just handle it because Phil Jackson knows how to handle Dennis Rodman. And he goes on to be the best rebounder of all time and also one of the best defenders of all time.
I think he is the best defender of all time.
Yeah, I mean, he has 3, like, that team had 3 of the best defenders in the league in Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman. So they were stacked defensively, and he was great to see. But the main thing to take away from his episode was he's playing last season. He's taking up a lot of Scotty's minutes because Scotty's not playing. Then Scotty comes back and he's like, I want to go on vacation. And they're like, what? And he's like, yeah, I want to go on fucking vacation. And Phil Jackson's like, sure, fuck it. I don't give a shit. And Michael Jordan's like, are you kidding me? He's like, just let him have it, man.
It was like, I think Phil Jackson says, like, you need to let him go.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
like,
he's never going to.
Yeah, he's like, he's not going to play well if we don't let this happen. So good on Phil Jackson for knowing his players.
Even though he did stay way past where.
Yeah,
so
he was only supposed to go to Las Vegas for a night. He ended up staying there for 2 days. It's a heavily recorded thing that you're like, there's videos of him at bars, basically like naked, dancing, everything, drugs everywhere, with Carmen Electra. The story of how they get him is like The Hangover, but for basketball. Scotty and Jordan literally fly to Las Vegas to find Dennis Rodman, and they find him in a room with, in the documentary, it said just Carmen Electra, or like that's what she said. She was like, I hid behind the couch. But when Jordan explained it, he was like, there's a ton of people like in that room, and I can't explain what I saw in there. So I think it was way more than what Carmen Electra said. It was probably like near like just some not safe for work things to say, but
there's probably some crazy stuff
there was
going
some
on
crazy
in that
stuff
hotel
going
room.
on in there. But what was your opinion of that 3rd episode? For the most part, I liked it, but I did think it was probably one of the worst. But
I actually think it was one of my favorites. I thought the Bad Boy Pistons and Dennis Rodman was just fascinating. I don't know. I really like both. I like 3 and 4 a lot. I liked. I think probably 1 right now is my least favorite, to be honest.
yeah, 1 is just like kind of learning more about him and stuff like that. I liked 1 just because it's kind of cool to learn more about the upbringing of like how he
It was
played.
cool to see how he developed. Like again, I say this, but I think all of the episodes have been really good.
Yeah, they're all good. It's a great documentary. The only reason I don't like 3 is because I don't think they delve into that rivalry as much as they should. Now, I don't know if that's because there's already at ESPN 30 for 30 about the Bad Boy Pistons, and that's a very good documentary. I highly recommend to anyone who hasn't seen it listening to the podcast. But they delve into the rivalry of the Bulls and Pistons a lot more. You get a lot of their reasonings for why they left after they lost to the Bulls for the first time, and then shake their hands. Like, you get a lot better understanding of it.
Yeah, they didn't talk about this, but I think like 3 people ended up shaking hands.
Yeah, only 3 people really ended up shaking hands. One of them's on the documentary. I think it's John Sally or Saley. But for the most part, like, those teams hate each other. I think they could have delved into it a little bit more, but again, it could have just been because they already have a documentary about it.
They might delve into it a little bit more on this Dream Team episode too, or maybe just the Michael and Isaiah.
Yeah, I mean, Michael and Isaiah hate each other. Even to this day, they're still going at each other constantly. What's your thoughts about their fucking drama right now that they're still going at each other?
It's kind of crazy. It's like, what, a 30-year-old rival, 25-ish year
like
rivalry?
25-ish-year-old rivalry.
It's nuts that they still hate each other as much as they do, and you can just tell.
Yeah, they absolutely
they
despise
showed.
each
I
other.
forgot what Isaiah said, but Michael was like, he's gonna say this right now, and then they showed him a clip, and then he kind of did, and Michael, it was just really funny just to see there's still just a lot of bad blood.
And Bill Laimbeer, also the center for the Pistons, absolutely hates Michael Jordan. All of them are LeBroners. They all say LeBron is better than Michael Jordan, and LeBron would kick their ass. Like, they openly were like, no, yeah, LeBron would fuck us up. I'm better than Michael Jordan. They like all just hate him so much that they don't even care to diss themselves. Like, that's how much they hate Michael Jordan.
It's pretty crazy.
But that rivalry is still going on. But I think they could have delved into that a little bit more. But if you want to learn more about, again, highly recommend Bad Boys documentary. And then the 4th episode's about Phil Jackson, who we saw a lot of this week, unfortunately. Very good coach, probably the best coach of all time. 11 championships. Terrible GM.
Just awful.
Awful GM. Just sits on his ass as a GM and gets Lamar Odom for no reason. But
sounds like he just didn't really care, though.
no, he just wanted money from the Knicks. But he also has a championship as a player, so he was a good player. I think he has 2 championships as a player, actually. So he has 13 overall rings.
That is nuts.
It's a lot. But what was your takeaways from the 4th one? You said you didn't know he was as into the Native American and Asian and spiritual things that he was, but
I mean, it seemed like the players bought into it, at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Which helps. I'm sure it's a good way, I guess, to bring people together. Other than that, it's a little weird, but hey, I won't knock it because it was successful. So
yeah. I think it's an interesting style. Shaq's talked about it before, and he was just like, yeah, I kind of listened to it. It helped out sometimes. Kobe, like, really bought into it. I don't know about Jordan. I think Jordan just didn't care as long as it helped him win.
Yeah.
I know Dennis Rodman bought into it because obviously you saw it in the documentary, but obviously it just, like, fit his lifestyle at the time. I don't know about Pippen. I feel like Pippen didn't give a shit.
Yeah, I feel like Pippen didn't either.
But a lot of players did like it. The best thing he did, obviously, was he learned the triangle from the guy who helped him create it.
I thought it was super interesting to see how, like, they completely just shut that shit down, but in reality, that's what they should have been doing all along.
With what?
Well, like, initially they shut down the trial.
Oh,
triangle
trying
offense.
to triangle out, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at that point, it was mainly centers dominate the league, and it was starting to change because of Magic and Larry Bird. But it was mainly like you have a good center, you run it through the center. If not, go to your best player to make a tough shot. And then eventually they started running the triangle. Now the triangle has run its course. It's dead. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it really is.
It doesn't work. They tried it with the Knicks. They've tried it with many of the teams, Lakers. It just doesn't work anymore in today's.
It was probably like 2009.
Last time it worked was when we watched, and it was terrible. But, yeah, it's died out, but it was a good offense. It was very heavily on passing the ball, cuts, free motion, that all just set up from trying to form a triangle. That's literally the concept, is just trying to form a triangle, and the other two on the weak side cut somewhere. And whoever cuts, just substitute and just keep moving until you get an open shot. So it's a very fluid moving offense. It made a lot of sense for the time. So good for them for kind of being visionaries about that. Also, another thing about back then is, at that time, changing your coach after having winning seasons, probably like big news, but not as big as news as it is today, as you obviously seen with like Mark Jackson getting fired. You saw David Black getting fired. Those moves, people were like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Ended up working out. Obviously, it happened earlier on in the NBA. History repeats itself. Phil Jackson replaced Doug Collins, who was a very good coach. Michael Jordan wanted Doug Collins.
Yeah, he was pissed about Phil Jackson.
He didn't want Phil Jackson because Phil Jackson wanted to take the ball out of his hands. He wanted Doug Collins since Doug Collins was like, go score 70 for us every game. But he didn't want Doug Collins. And then, it actually helped out. So does that give you like any insights about just like our team, maybe our coaching stuff, maybe not yet, but maybe Malone's maybe not the right guy? Sometimes it could be the case.
I mean, here's the thing. It's like, I think it kind of feels like, yeah, Malone might not be, but I think he has like laid the groundwork for what could potentially be another, this is probably a reach, but like another like game-changing type of thing, because no other team in the league runs the ball through Jokic like we do.
Yeah.
And you might need a player like Jokic to do this, but if you can pull it off and you can change maybe a few other things that maybe another coach does, it could change offenses again in the NBA. And like, imagine Jokic doing all of this stuff, and you have like Jamal and MPJ in their primes, hopefully what they are, just draining every three. Like that feels unbeatable to me.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, you never know with coaching changes. Sometimes you can be successful, but you want to make a change in direction. Sometimes it pans out, like the three I've mentioned, or sometimes it doesn't, like our kind of case when we fired George Karl after his coaching, when he got Coach of the Year. Even though I was okay with that, but we shouldn't have hired Brian Shaw. You got to get the right person, not the wrong person.
And we're getting there. I'm not sure if Malone is, but he's good enough right now.
Yeah, Malone's doing what he needs to do right now, but if you get to a point like the Bulls did or any of those teams I mentioned earlier did where you just kind of hit a wall, I think it's always good for a change of scenery. Now, will it always work out? No, but might as well try it. So
It's worked out many times. It worked out for the Bulls. It worked out for the Warriors.
Cavs, like I said.
Cavs.
It's worked out a ton of times before. So you just got to let it run its course, see if it goes. But that's just how you can see it for, nowadays in the NBA. But the episodes tonight are going to be about the Jordan brand, which I feel like will be interesting for the most part, but everyone kind of understands what happened with it.
It kind of goes off the basketball court, too, which I'm not super excited about.
I'm sure they'll relate it to, like, every time he wore this shoe, this event happened, every time he wore this shoe. Like, because, like, there's certain shoes that he wore that are now, like, classic shoes in the Jordan brand because of the certain shots he made and certain things he did. But the one after that's actually going to be the most entertaining, which is the one about the Dream Team.
Yeah,
I'm really excited to see that. See why Isaiah was actually left off the team. If they actually say why it was, I hope Michael Jordan's just like, yeah, I left him off the team. I didn't want him on the team.
I hope it was just straight up.
I hope he says that. He's not going to, but I wish he did. And it's just cool to see because that team was the best Olympic team we've ever had.
Who was the coaches of that team? Or do we even know? Is it just?
I don't actually know. I don't want to say it definitely wasn't Krzyzewski. There's no way it was Krzyzewski. No, but I don't know. You look that up, Phil, for me because I really don't know. But that team went off. That was the first time we allowed NBA players to play in the Olympics.
What year was that? 1992, or is that different? 1992. It was Chuck Daly.
Okay, so Chuck Daly was the coach of the Pistons. Wow, that's crazy. And they left off.
Isaiah Thomas off. Wow. Now I'm even more interested.
So yeah, there you had Chuck Daly as a coach. That team was the first time we allowed NBA players to play in the Olympics. Before it was just all college players or people about to go into the NBA, like Michael did his first time. And that's because we lost the Olympics before. So we were like, okay, we actually have to put real people in. We go on to dominate, fuck everyone up. And the story is told. We win until 2004, and then redeem team, and then still
haven't lost since.
Yeah, haven't lost since. So just continuing the trend, trying to keep it up. Except for this world, I don't count the world championship. We did lose the world championship.
That doesn't count.
But that team sucked. So
I guarantee you, we lost the world championship in 1992 too.
No one fucking played on that team.
No one did that.
But yeah, I'm excited for that episode, and we'll see how that goes, and we'll definitely talk about that. Any last comments about the Jordan doc before we move on? Maybe about his intensity, how he played?
Yeah, it's impressive. Nuggets need someone with that intensity.
Just to have the winning mentality and be frustrated anytime you lose.
Mm-hmm. Jamal's getting there, but not yet.
I think Jamal's probably the closest one, yeah. Because he always seems pretty pissed off when we lose. No one else really seems like that. But I think we'll get there, hopefully. But yeah, overall, great documentary. And now we will talk about the topic for this podcast, continuing with our review of the 2009 playoffs, the worst series that we had to review. Still hurts to this day. We played the championship Lakers that year in the Western Conference Finals. This was basically the finals because there was no way that just a LeBron-led Cavs team was going to beat us, and there was no way that a less talented Orlando team was going to beat us or the Lakers. So this was basically the finals.
These are the best two teams in the league for sure.
These were the best two teams. Up there also with Houston. We have to acknowledge Houston. Houston took the Lakers to 7. Granted, the Lakers weren't playing very well in that series, but they did. Rockets did lose a lot of talent. I think they lost Tracy and Yao Ming in that series, and they still took them to 7. Mainly because their coach was really good, Rick Adelman, very good coach. But this series went to 6. We definitely blew it. After reviewing it, we had 2 opportunities to take over this series, and we kind of just blew them twice, both on inbound passes. We'll get into it. But we'll start off with just talking about the first games. The very first game was very competitive. We played, down to the wire with them. Carmelo played extremely well. Kobe had 40 points. It was as close as a game as you could want for game one. We almost stole it. It was 105-103. Comes down to we're down 2. We have the last possession. You just got to inbound the fucking ball. Mm-hmm. I thought it was Kenyon Martin who fucks it up. We'll get to it. It wasn't Kenyon Martin. It was Anthony Carter. And he tries to pass it in. Terrible inbound pass. Trevor Ariza steals it.
So bad. It was like straight to Trevor Ariza.
It was terrible. It was lobbed up in there. It was really easy to steal. Trevor Ariza steals it. Basically finishes the game. So we had a chance to win it, but we blew it. And it was very frustrating. But what were your main takeaways from that first game?
This is going to be a theme of when we talk about this series. I think we outplayed them for pretty much the entire game. Kobe went off, but I think Melo basically matched Kobe every single game of this series.
Yeah, Melo had 39 for this. Melo started to dip down a little bit, but we'll get into reasons why.
Yeah. But, yeah, he was just... Like, it was just so... It was such a close game, yes, but I thought we outplayed them, and we really had a chance to win it, and we blew it. And so we go down 0-1, and I have an overall theme that I want to talk about with this.
It's a bad game.
It's a bad game.
It's a bad game. We were definitely winning it for the most part.
I was so upset.
We were up 12 at one point in the second quarter. We allowed them to come back, take the lead at the end of the second quarter. Still close, even though we did that. Most teams, after they blow that lead, at least old Nuggets teams at that time, they would have gave up, and then it would have turned into a blowout. These guys didn't. They played really hard. Like I said, Carmelo had 39. Chauncey had 18. Nene had 14. And also, we got a rare 15 points from Kenyon Martin. If you get 15 points from Kenyon Martin, you should have won the fucking game.
You really should.
Because you're not going to get that very often. But we did. And then on their side, Kobe had 40. Pau Gasol didn't play really well yet. He had 13. Derek Fisher had 13. It was really Kobe. Kobe was carrying this team at the time. But my main issue with this game, looking back on it, is in the fourth quarter, we have a lineup where we're just not scoring. And the reason is because we have a lineup of Carmelo, Anthony Carter, Chauncey Billups, Kenyon Martin, and Nene. Nene's in foul trouble for most of the series. It's another running theme. He's either going to foul out or has a lot of fouls.
Yeah.
So he can't be as aggressive defensively as he would like or offensively. For some reason, we trusted Anthony Carter to guard Kobe Bryant throughout the series as our second defender. Our first defender was obviously Dante Jones, who we'll also get to. He did some dirty shit, but it was funny. In that moment, it's just Kobe just scoring over Carmelo and Anthony Carter, and it's just easy buckets. It's too easy for him. Obviously, we made it hard, but the defensive side is not really what I was upset about in that first game. It's the offensive side. You're not going to score when you only have two guys who can really shoot the ball, and especially when you have one guy who's basically non-existent on the offensive side of the ball, which is Anthony Carter. You also have Kenyon Martin, who's not existent, but in that game he was doing well.
I mean, he's usually non-existent.
But in that game he was doing well. And my main issue is Anthony Carter should not be in that game. I know J.R. Smith was having a rough game that game, but you should put J.R. in there. You also should have put Lennox Kleza in there. Lennox Kleza had a great series, which we'll get into again. But at that point, it just doesn't make sense. And then even more on the inbound pass, why is the shortest person inbounding the ball?
I would have been happy with pretty much anyone else inbound.
It should have been Chauncey.
Yeah, get your best passer to do that.
It should
That's
be Chauncey
what everybody
Billups.
in the NBA does now.
You put Chauncey Billups to pass the ball to Carmelo Anthony. Everyone already knows it's going in Carmelo's fucking hands. So just get Chauncey Billups to make sure it gets into Carmelo's hands. But we blew it even before the blown pass, even though that was very bad. It was just bad substitutions. We
made a lot of boneheaded mistakes on defense in this series too.
Yeah, bad defensive plays, bad substitutions. The game was basically ours, but we just blew it because we let Kobe take it over because we put people we shouldn't really have put on him. I will give Carmelo credit. He played very well throughout the series for the most part, and he tried very hard defensively. But Kobe was just too good. We have to give credit to Kobe Bryant.
Yeah,
he was the best player at the league in this point.
Mm-hmm. And he showed it.
And yeah, he averaged 38 this series.
It's crazy.
Like he never didn't score below 20. There was one game he scored 20, and we'll get into that one too. But I think our defense on him was good. We played as well as we could. He made tough shots. That's what Kobe Bryant's going to do. You let the other guys not score. We just blew it on the offensive side of the ball for this one. But it wasn't over. You're just trying to win one game. But it is kind of a damper that happened.
It would be good to take the first one.
Yeah. But the second one, we come back again, very close game. They're actually up 14 at the second quarter. We bring it all the way back, tie it, or get near tie at the second, before the second half. And then we actually end up to go on to win this game because Carmelo plays extremely well, 106-103. Chauncey had 27 as well. Carmelo had 34. Kenyon Martin again had 16. And Lance Kleza had 16. And then Kobe again had 40. I think 40 points. No, he had 32 points. Trevor Ariza had 20. Pau Gasol had 17. What were your thoughts about the second game where we played more of a complete game, I would say?
We looked like the better team. We just looked better than them in this game. All the games we won, we looked better than them. And some of the games we lost, we looked better than them. I think in game one, we looked better than them. Kobe was the best player on the court, but for the most part, we outplayed them.
Yeah.
And again, just like this game, Kobe was the best player on the court. Melo was really good in this one, right?
Yeah, Melo had 36, I think.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, it was a good game, and I think this might have been the game where Chauncey and Derek Fisher went back and forth for a little bit.
A little bit, not as much, but a little bit. They were going at each other, but Chauncey was dominating it for the most part.
Yeah, Chauncey.
This was Chauncey Billups. I almost said Chauncey Bryant's. This was Chauncey Billups' best game in the series because he had 27. He handled it well. They had composure. He brought us back from when we were down 14 in the second quarter. Carmelo also did. Carmelo popped off when we were down a lot. He had 6 straight buckets.
Yeah, that's really good.
He did really good in making sure to keep us in the game. And my main takeaway from this one, too, is at the beginning of the game, we're not doing so hot offensively. George Karl puts in Lance Kleza. Lance Kleza comes in, does pretty well, hits 2 threes, takes him out again, puts in Kenyon Martin, who's his guy. And then we start going down a lot of points. And Carmelo hits a couple buckets, and then Carmelo looks at George Karl and he says, put in fucking Lance Kleza. And George Karl actually does it. And I give him credit for doing that because we talked about it. And I told you, if you thought Nikola Jokic would ask Mike Malone to put in, let's say, MPJ, would Mike Malone do it? And
No chance.
Yeah, you're like, no chance. So I give George Karl credit for doing that because I generally do not think Mike Malone would do that if someone told him to put in somebody. I'm not positive. Maybe if Jamal told him, sure.
Yeah. I think I actually feel like the one person that he would listen to would be maybe Jamal. I feel like if Jokic actually spoke up enough to say it, he might actually say yes.
Because be shocked.
He'd be like, what? Okay.
He's like, I'll put him in. You want him in? All right. But that was shocking because Lance Kleza also came in, helped, and it helped because he could shoot, but also the advantage the Lakers had in this series, and we didn't talk about in the first game, and throughout the series, is their offensive rebounding. Because they have Andrew Bynum and Pau Gasol, who are both 7-footers.
Yeah, they were out rebounding us pretty much the whole series.
The whole series, unless we team rebound, they were kicking our ass. And that's because, like I said, they had 2 7-footers. Pau Gasol is a very talented player. Andrew Bynum was very talented. And that hurt us a lot. But once you bring in Lance Kleza, it spaces the floor to where they don't have to, because when they're guarding Kenyon Martin, they just stay inside.
So there's 2 7-footers in the paint.
Yeah, they're just clogging the lane so they can't drive in, and they're daring Kenyon Martin to shoot. And sometimes he made it, most of the times he didn't. But when it's Lance Kleza, they can't do that because Lance Kleza is going to make the shots. He was 50% throughout this series from 3. He's going to make it. So that helped expand the floor, and it was good. And that's why this game, when we went on to win it, and also Carmelo was just on a mission this one. He had kind of a fire to him. But what were your other takeaways from the second game? It was mainly just like Melo popping off, I think.
Yeah, I think, that's I mean, every time Lance Kleza was on the court, you're right, we were a better team. Kenyon Martin, while he didn't even play like that good of defense in this series, and you always expect him to take a stupid shot or turn over the ball or something.
There was multiple times he slipped on the floor.
So frustrating. It's very Mason Plumlee-like, except I think I would prefer Mason Plumlee.
Well, yeah. I mean, every player is now better now than they were back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was frustrating, but we did win. And it did come down to like a lot of offensive rebounds from Carmelo and then just really good defense on Kobe Bryant. And we stole a game, and we were 1-1 at that point. Possibly should have been 2-0. Could have been 0-2 too. Again, they were very close games, but like you, I think we were the better team in those first two games.
I agree.
And then we're coming home, and we start off game 3 really well. And you asked me, how the fuck did we lose this game? And I told you, Kobe Bryant just kills us. And he does, and we also make a mistake, which I'll get into, and it really pisses me off. But other than the mistake that we'll talk about, what was your main takeaways from Game 3 and just seeing, like, let's say the home crowd? Because that's like a real home crowd in that one. You could, like, hear them through the screen.
It was extremely loud, and I can't wait until we can get to our atmosphere like that again, if we can ever do that. If this team, like, it just, for me, the crowd shows almost more about that team versus our current Nuggets team. It shows that, like, our current Nuggets team is not even close. I think I've said in the past on this podcast that last year's Nuggets team was the best Nuggets team of all time. I take it back. 2009 Nuggets, best Nuggets team of all time.
Yeah.
They easily could have won the championship this year if they didn't choke. Let's be real. It's very frustrating.
It is very frustrating. And the thing about that crowd, too, and this is why I always say, again, this is no shot to Denver fans now or anything like that, but it just is, like, that team, I think, actually, like, people saw it have a real chance of winning. Whereas the team we had last year, everyone knew that even if we won that 7th game against the Trailblazers, we were about to get fucking railed by the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt in my mind, even if the KD injuries and all of those things, play out the same way they did, we were still going to lose that series.
Yeah.
They're just way more experienced. There's no way a first year playoff team is going to go and beat a 4-time, like,
the 2-time
returning champion.
Exactly.
Like, it's not going to happen. So, that, I think that was one of the reasons. But with this, like, the thing is that I saw from it, and I was at this game as a child, and, like, I just remember memories of, even though there was a ton of Lakers fans there, we were louder than them, which was amazing. And also, we said some stupid shit. Like, we were like, F you, Kobe. We were chanting that. We were like, LA sucks. We were like, the refs suck. This game's rigged. Like, all of these is crazy things. And, like, even to a point where in the third quarter, and I regret us doing this, Kobe's frustrated. Dante Jones does some, kind of fucked up shit, pushing him in the back and stuff along these lines.
Did they call that a flagrant?
They changed it from a flagrant. So Dante Jones pushes in the back. It's just a regular foul. The next game, they change it to a flagrant 1, but nothing happens. It's just a flagrant 1.
Yeah.
And then, but when that happens and he's frustrated and he's struggling, we, for some reason, get really cocky as a fan base and decide to antagonize the best player in the world at that time and say, fuck you, Kobe, and the chants. And he just looks at us and goes, okay, all right, let's go. And it was a mistake. We shouldn't have done that. And he starts popping off. He makes great assists to his teammates, and he hits the most clutch 3 of his career over J.R. Smith to give them the lead. And they're up again, 2 at that point, going to the end of the game. He does his underbite face and everything. It was traumatizing. I still remembered it very well. And then, again, we have another point where we're down. It's very easy for us to get back into this game. We just need to get the ball to one of our star players. Kenyon Martin's there. And he fucks up the inbound pass again. Twice in the series, we fuck up the inbound pass. And I remember this one. I thought it was in game 1, but it was in game 3. And I was in shock that we did it twice. I didn't even think we did it twice.
Baffled. You would think that in theory we would have won at least one of those, if not both. And because of this inbound pass, we didn't even give ourselves a chance to win. And that's 2 games down. We could have been up 3-0, 2-1. It really made me upset when I saw we did it twice.
We did it twice. Same type of thing. Lob pass in the air. Trevor Ariza steals it easily. Game's over because Kobe just nails free throws after that 3 he hit. It was very frustrating. But my main issue with this game was Carmelo comes out extremely hot at the beginning of this game. He has, I think, 16 points in the first quarter. He ends with 21 in this game. And the reason is, a lot of people will say it's because of his foul trouble. He was in foul trouble for the rest of the second half, basically got disengaged from the game. You could see it on his face. It's kind of similar to how Jokic gets disengaged from games. Like, you can very clearly see it on their body and their just demeanor.
Yep.
But my thing of why it happened wasn't the fouls. In the second quarter, we're up a lot. We're up by like 8 points or something like that. And there's 8 minutes. It's at the point where there's 8 minutes left in the quarter. And we go 6 straight plays where Carmelo Anthony doesn't touch the ball after he had one of his best first quarters in the playoffs. You feed that man that ball. I don't care what the play is. You're giving Carmelo Anthony the ball when he's feeling good.
Oh, yeah, always.
He doesn't get it at all in those minutes. He starts getting into foul trouble because he makes dumb passes, and we just lose the lead, and it becomes a close game again. And then we lose it. I think it was 103-97 is the score of this game that we lose it to. But I think that's the biggest mistake, is that we have Carmelo playing the best basketball of his career at that point, and instead of feeding him the ball in the second quarter when he's doing really well, we decide not to do it and just run regular plays for J.R. Smith, who's having a terrible series at this point, and Chauncey Billups, who in this game was kind of off character, didn't play very well, had a lot of turnovers.
Yeah, he was very sloppy in this game.
It wasn't a good Chauncey game. But that was my takeaway from it. I was just very frustrated by that. And that's on George Karl, and we'll get into that. I think that's another theme.
We'll talk about George Karl, too. It's just a lot of missed opportunities in this game, too.
We definitely could have been up 3-0. We definitely should have been up at least 2-1. Instead, we're down 2-1. And we go into Game 4. Definitely the biggest game of our year that year, because if you lose that, it's over. Luckily, we don't lose it. We actually played. This is probably our best game of the series. We win 120-101. Do everything right. We rebound the ball well. We play defense well. We score well. J.R. Smith finally shows up. J.R. Smith is definitely the MVP of this game. He had 24 off of the bench. Finally started making some threes. Finally played well. Chauncey Billups also had 24, so very good performance from him. Like I said, again, Kobe had like 40 again. I think he had 34. So obviously he played well. Pau Gasol had 21. Those are the two best players for that team. But if I told you that Carmelo doesn't score, let's say, 20 points, I don't even know. He got 15. If I told you he scored 15, he had a bum ankle, and he apparently had the stomach flu, would you have thought we won this game?
Nope.
No. But if I told you that Carmelo had 16 in the first quarter of one game, and Kobe's at least getting contained for a little bit, you would think we win that game.
Yeah, I would say, how did we lose this game?
It's flip-flopped. Like, we should have won the other game if we actually fed Melo more, but we didn't. This game, Melo is non-existent because, again, he rolled his ankle in between the game, and apparently he had a stomach virus. I don't know if that was real or not. No one does. A lot of people just think he got disengaged. There's people who actually think it was real. No one really knows. But he just did not play very well in that game. But the rest of the team did. Obviously, like Birdman played pretty well. Klaize again had 10 points. Nene had 14. Dante Jones had 12. This was the game that Dante Jones tripped Kobe Bryant. And what happened is Kobe tries to do a back cut. Dante Jones intentionally cuts off his ankle and doesn't let him go to the bucket, and Kobe's really pissed, gets a technical. Throughout the series, there's a shit ton of technicals.
Yeah,
but,
this is a pretty chippy series.
Yeah, they hated each other. These teams did not like each other. But what did you think of Dante Jones tripping over Kobe Bryant? Because I thought it was kind of funny.
It was kind of funny. It was obviously, if he lands on it wrong, it's not harmless, but it was harmless.
It was definitely a dirty play.
It was totally dirty, but it was harmless.
It was just funny.
It was funny. It just kind of shows the series. We antagonized Kobe, and sometimes he made us pay. So
yeah, this one, luckily, he didn't. Just because we played really good D on the rest of his teammates. Also, his teammates just didn't show up really in general. We blow the doors open. Even after that game, in the post conference, Kobe just said they killed us. They dominated everything. He called out his teammates again, and he is not afraid to call out his teammates. Even on the court, he yells at his teammates. Like, he very similar to Michael Jordan, very similar mindsets. He wants to win everything. He doesn't care if you're friends or not. Like, he will come at you. And he called out a lot of his teammates, Lamar, Powell. He wanted them to play better, and they weren't. Lamar Odom was having a very bad series at this point, and he was considered for Sixth Man of the Year, along with J.R. Smith and Jason Terry. So, like, he was one of the better sixth men. He probably should have been starting, to be honest. But, yeah, we win this game, and again, that's 4 games where I think in every single one of those games we were the better player.
I think we were the best team in all 4 of these games, and usually the best team wins. So I'd say we should have been up 4-0 or 3-1.
I'd say at least 3-1. We should have been up 3-1. I'm okay with losing a game in L.A., but you can't lose at home. And that was also a thing, too, where even after we lost that third one, you were like, so this series was over, right? And I was like, yeah, like mentally, like we came up and we showed out for game 4. But, like, if you lose game 3 like that where you were up and you just blow it, and you blow it the way you did by doing the same mistake you did in game 1, like, it looks really bad.
You're not going to go into L.A. and win.
Yeah, like if you look at Carmelo's face after Game 3,
you could just tell
he's stunned. Like that's when Carmelo got disengaged from the series. He was never the same again. He had a good game here or there, but like he wasn't the same. He wasn't the first. It
shook him,
games.
and I mean you can't blame him. He really did he played more than well enough for us to win this series.
Yeah, like he did his best that he could do, but you could tell that he got shook. Chauncey, I guess, couldn't knock it out of him and things along those lines. But it's 2-2, and as a Nuggets fan, you have to be excited. Game 5 is going to be hard, but if we somehow stole it, you'd be shocked. You'd be amazed. And Game 5, again, was a very close game. This whole series, except for Game 6, was a very close series for the most part. Like, they all went down to the fourth quarter, except for Game 6. But this game, even though we lost by 9 points, it was 103-94. We were in it till the fourth quarter.
The first quarter tied, second quarter tied, third quarter tied. Same score every single time.
So it's a very competitive game, very chippy, but teams are playing, and then they just go on an 11-0 run
to start the quarter.
Start the fourth quarter. They score 11 straight points, and at that point, it's done. You just can't let them score 11 straight points.
That is Nugg life right there. We always just seem to come out and just get choke the beginning of a quarter.
And it was bad. You just can't let that happen. And Carmelo played well. He had 31 points. Chauncey had 12. Kenyon had 12. Klesa had 10. J.R. didn't play that well again. J.R. just had a bad series overall. Best player for them, Kobe again, 22. Powell had 14. Lamar Odom was their MVP, though. He had 19. But their whole team played a lot better. Trevor had 12. Derek Fisher had 12. Andrew Bynum had 9. But what were your takeaways of the Game 5 and the blown 11-point, like this game, letting them have the 11-point lead and things along those lines? Because even that game, again, you look over to me and you're like, how did we lose this? And I'm just like, we just blow it.
we blew 3 games at least. We obviously blew 3. It's very reasonable to say that we blew another 2.
Yeah, like this one, I'd say less we blew it, and we gotta give them credit. But like, that you just can't let 11 points happen in a row.
I mean, at least you would have a chance to win if you even scored like 5 in that span.
Yeah, and
then that game was basically over after that.
Yeah, and there was 2 things in this game that I had main issues with. One, with just a small little thing, and it's just like a momentum type of thing. We're up, I think, 6 in the third quarter, and there's this loose ball that goes around like our bench. Chris Anderson dives for it against, I think it's Shannon Brown or Derek Fisher, and you live with that jump ball most of the times. Like, most coaches be like, yeah, this is fine. Like, Chris Anderson's going to win this. He's not going to lose this to either of those guys, even if it was Shannon Brown, who has an insane vertical. So you let that happen. But for some reason, George Karl uses our 22nd timeout. And there's no reason to use that in that second, because then after that, we come out, they score 6 points in a row, and we can't call a timeout to stop the momentum, and they continue that into the fourth quarter. And it's just that's a simple coaching mistake. There was no reason to use that timeout. Even Jeff Van Gundy, when we watched it, said that like that was a mistake by George Karl. Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason to use that timeout. You live with what happens with that jump ball because more than likely you're gonna win it. And it was just a dumb timeout. And that's a small thing that I had an issue with. The big thing I had an issue with is this whole series. Kobe Bryant's gonna score 40 or near 40. That's okay. You let that happen. You live with it.
You have to live with Kobe Bryant going off.
If you can't stop him, the best you can do is just try to frustrate him. But for the whole series, none of his teammates were playing well. Lamar Odom was having a bad series. Vujacic having a bad series. Pau Gasol, for the type of caliber player he is, bad series. Derek Fisher still had a bad series. But the issue I had with this game is, for some reason, George Karl decides to change our defensive game plan on Kobe Bryant from just playing him one-on-one and letting him do what he does, but making sure his teammates doesn't, to double teaming him on every fucking play. And then after he passes out from double team, it's basically a 4v3. And those guys started getting going. Lamar Odom starts getting going. He's getting easy shots. Pau Gasol getting easy shots. Trevor Ariza getting easy shots. And we continued letting it happen, and I don't know why. I would have preferred we just let Kobe try to beat us himself. If he does, I would have lived with it because he's the best player in the world. I did not want Lamar Odom to beat me in a game.
Yep.
Lamar Odom beat us in this game, and it was his play that helped them end us. And I just don't get why George Karl did that. And that was my biggest takeaway from the series. We lost because George Karl was not as good as a coach as Phil Jackson.
Yep, I agree with you. George Karl, he's overrated, man.
I mean, definitely now, yeah.
Yeah, in hindsight, he's overrated, and I wish maybe we had seen that. But I feel like you just kind of get the vibe that Melo didn't like George Karl ever.
No, he never
and
did.
J.R. Smith probably didn't either,
No.
and he didn't towards the end. So it's just kind of crazy. You can't fire him, obviously, even the year before, but it's just really frustrating that he just showed that he's not that good a coach. I think he's better than Malone, but I'm not 100% sure.
I mean, he has a better Hall of Fame resume. I mean, he's been to 3 conference finals with 3 different teams. He's been to a finals. He has only lost to Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and I think other NBA legends.
Dikembe Mutombo.
So you lose to people. It happens. But for the time, he was a very good coach. But I think his time outran because his style of play was just played really fast. And it doesn't work when you don't have a half-court offense, like a real half-court offense. They had the triangle, which was like a real half-court offense. Even though, again, they relied on Kobe a lot, it still was an offense. Ours was just give it to Carmelo. If it doesn't work, give it to Chauncey. And then hopefully Nene and Ken can make shots if they have to. And Nene had a bad series again because he had foul trouble.
That doesn't work when the intensity is raised to 100 in a playoff series.
Yeah.
We played the better teams and won the last 2 series. But you run into a team with a player like Kobe, it's not going to happen. So that's why I'm also kind of thankful. I think the current Nuggets need to play faster still, but at least they run an offense, and that is nice to see. I think it will translate to more playoff success.
Yeah, because we actually run a half-court offense. Now, the issue with our current teams, we don't do transition offense, which, again, is because Jokic is slow. But it's fine. He'll get in shape, hopefully. But, yeah, I mean, this team they blew definitely 2 games. They were the better team for the first 4 games, but in game 5 and 6, they weren't because they allowed the other guys to start playing better. And you saw that very clearly in game 6 where the Lakers just dominated us. I was at that game. It was a very somber mood. I was definitely crying as a little child. It was 119-92. Pau Gasol popped off at 20. Kobe had 35. Trevor Ariza had 17. Lamar Odom had 20. Luke Walton had 10. Sasa Vujacic had 7. We did the same thing again. We started running double teams and let these guys play really well. And then once we realized that we shouldn't do that, we got people off of Kobe Bryant. And just think, being Kobe Bryant, how much easier it is when you go from the whole game being doubled, then all of a sudden having Anthony Carter or Dante Jones on you or J.R. Smith.
He was just pulling up.
It's way easier all of a sudden because now you're just okay, it's one guy. This is fine.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense. You just stick to one, and you should have stick to just guarding him straight up the whole series. We didn't. It was a mistake. So again, that was on George Karl. I don't know why he changed his defensive game plan and allowed the other guys for the Lakers to finally show up in the series, which continued for them into the finals. So that was your welcome for that championship. But also lineup changes. I strongly think we should have started Lennis Kleza, and that's because he was 50% from three. He was a good rebounder. You're not guarding Pau Gasol anyways. Might as well just help yourself on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, Kenyon wasn't doing shit.
Also, Anthony Carter shouldn't have played. He never scored. He played a lot of minutes. He was our ninth man. I would have preferred we just stick with 8 guys. That ninth guy is not doing anything. Anthony Carter's just there just to be there, just to help Chauncey get a rest. Unfortunately, we didn't get a good backup point guard until we drafted Ty Lawson a couple years later. Would have helped out a lot in the series to have Ty. But we had Anthony Carter. Could have got a better guy there. And another thing is, even if you don't want to start Lennis Kleza because you're worried defensively, start Chris Anderson over Kenyon Martin. Chris Anderson at least has a threat to shoot a 2, and he's also a 7-footer, so at least he can guard Pau Gasol better than Kenyon Martin can. He can help on the boards, and he can block. He's an interior defender for everyone, not just the guy he's guarding. So a lot of mistakes watching the series in review. A lot of it, I think, comes down to coaching. Obviously, the players made a lot of mental mistakes here and there, too. Like, George Karl is not the one throwing in the inbound passes. Mm-hmm. But it was a blown series, and it really still hurts to this day because that was the closest we've been to a championship. Hopefully it changes.
It's the closest we've ever been, and looking back on it, we really could have / should have been there.
Yeah. And even in looking into the future, like, because you asked me, like, what happened to this team? Next year, we were the best team in the league going into All-Star break. We were the first seed by, like, 5-ish games. Going to All-Star break, Melo's in it, Chauncey's in it. They're both playing really well. George Karl's coaching it. After that game happened, George Karl comes out and announces he has cancer again, and then he can't coach. We get our assistant coach, Adrian Dantley, to do it. They didn't respect Adrian Dantley. We fell to the 5th seed, lose to the Utah Jazz in that series. Then the next year, George Karl's back. We're thinking about running it back. Melodrama happens. Melo, decides he wants to go to New York. The whole year, it's this back and forth of him saying whether he lying about he wants to stay, saying the New York rumors are lies, trades coming up about him going to the Knicks, Nets, even possibly the Lakers. And then we ended up trading him and Chauncey to the Knicks and officially started our rebuild. That is now officially over. Thank God.
Yeah, it was a long road.
But it was definitely a wasted opportunity because I think both of those years we also had an opportunity to win a championship because the next year, yes, the Lakers ran it back and won the second championship, but our team definitely couldn't compete with them. And I think the third year, which was the melodrama year, if he just stayed on that team, just like we just lose him in free agency for nothing, I think we could have possibly beat that Dallas Mavericks team and possibly beat LeBron's Heat team. But it is what it is. It was unfortunate.
Yeah. Such a bummer.
But that's our Nuggets history. So how was just the overall review of the 2009 playoffs for you, Phil?
Really good team. Best Nuggets team of all time. Biggest missed opportunity in Colorado sports, I really think. Like you can say all the Broncos stuff, Raheem Moore, whatever, but this team's never won a championship, and they could have.
They definitely could have. It's a lost opportunity, but I still have a lot of fond memories of this team, even though Carmelo is a snake.
It really is.
And JR is also low-key a snake. But, I have a lot of fond memories of this team. Always will be one of my favorite Nuggets teams. It's just unfortunate we didn't get where we wanted to be. But hopefully this Nuggets team learns from mistakes of the past and also just gains. I actually would hope that a lot of Nuggets players would actually watch the series. I know they wouldn't, but it'd be sick if they would because I think they could learn a lot of things about that team's physicality, that team's demeanor, and also MPJ could learn a lot of things from Melo's type of style, and Jamal could learn a little bit about Chauncey's kind of leadership and things along those lines. And same thing with Jokic, but it is what it is. Somber way to end it, but I still enjoyed rewatching it.
Yeah, it was fun. It's a really good team. It's fun watching the first two series too. We were stacked.
Yeah, we had a good team. But it is what it is. I hope you guys enjoyed the review of everything we went through. We'll figure out what the next topic will be. It'll be a surprise. I don't know what it is yet. We'll figure it out. But in the meantime, again, make sure to like and subscribe. Tell a friend. Check us out on the available podcast providers, Spotify, anything along those lines. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys another time.
Go Nuggets.